Hello, everyone. Welcome to LA Rams Central. I'm sorry I'm doing this the night of the Thursday night game. I'm actually DVRing it to see a couple things I want to mention on that game, and I will get to those tonight. There's a few things that I want to touch on here, in particular the Week 2 games. Some reasons to be excited, some reasons to still be extremely concerned. I'm going to go over a few things, obviously with the Rams first. Then I'm going to talk about a little bit of each game and what I kind of noticed, what I thought, give some of my analysis on, and then we'll kind of move forward into the third and final segment, which will be more of a predictions and what to expect in the upcoming weeks, and I'll also touch on the Patriot-Texan game that's going on right now. So I have no idea what even the score is. I have not started. I just put it on DVR. So I also got a fan question I'm going to address in this segment. So I first want to just say, man, that was a big win. The first game back in LA, it needed to go the way it went. I was really thrilled all the way around with the way the Rams defense really seemed to step up. If you guys didn't hear, there was a players-only meeting that the players had the night before the game. And I don't know what was said, but it's almost like the defense kind of took the attitude of, okay, offense, you keep rolling threes and we're going to shut the opponent down. We got to win 3-0, 6-0, 9-0, 9-3. That's what we're going to do. And they did. The players left that meeting pretty positive and pretty pumped up, and the play on the field showed it. So let me first say congratulations to the Rams defense. You've been labeled elite. You did not appear elite at all on Monday night. I don't know what the reason was, but clearly you were ready for prime time on Sunday. And you won a game single-handedly on your own. Guys, this is our life until Case Keenum is gone. As long as Case Keenum is quarterback, we'll be lucky to score points. Certainly touchdowns. Field goals, Greg the Leg, 3 for 3 was great. We needed all of it to give us that assured victory that we needed. I was so pleased with the play of T.J. McDonald, Robert Quinn, Aaron Donald, Alec Ogletree, I thought, played a tremendous game. Yeah, obviously Barron. I mean, the entire defense, just such a good performance. And, people are like, well, I don't know what it is. Is it this, why did the Rams need to be the Seahawks kryptonite? I just think when the officials get out of the way, when they call the game legit, when they allow the Rams to play defense, wasn't that a fun game? I think that was the most entertaining 9-3 game, I agree with Joe Buck, I think I've ever seen. All the way around. There was nothing about that game that I stepped away going, I wasn't impressed with defensively. Offensively, we moved the ball. We did go vertical. Still no Higbee sightings. I don't know, what the delay is on that. But, guys, we've got a block for Todd Gurley. And we cannot continue to scuffle. Now, I read an article today that one of the Rams linemen said that they had a meeting after practice, and they basically said that they are going to block better for Todd Gurley, and they are going to get him back on track. They need to. If they can do that, then obviously that's going to open up Keenum a little bit more. But what I was most disturbed about offensively, and I'm not complaining, it's an observation. What was most alarming to me is we went deep and we got passes completed deep. 32, 22, 36, 18, and I think we had a 26-yard completion in there. We got the ball down the field. It didn't take Seattle out of the box. It's almost like they told Jeff Fisher, we don't buy it. Prove you're going to keep doing this. And they knew the Rams wouldn't. Can we please stop the jet sweep with Tavon Austin? Have we learned so far through 2 games, defenses have that play figured out? They're going to overload the side that he's jet sweeping to and stop him for a 5-yard loss. Boris, have we figured that out yet? Do you need more game film to determine what I already know, what I hope most people have already noticed? Guys, I'm overly critical of coaching because I've coached. I'm going to sound braggadocious here. Not intended to. But I've been coaching for 15 years. Up until now 2 years ago, when I stopped coaching, I knew way more about the game of football and X's and O's than your normal high school football coach. I prepared, trained, and taught myself not how to stop high school offenses and defenses, but how to stop NFL offenses and defenses, knowing that if I could stop stuff that complicated, I could handle high school and college. And the dream was to eventually go and become a pro coach. Opportunity was never there because I didn't know the right people. And I learned that lesson the hard way after 15 years of trying to just get to the high school head coaching position. There isn't a coach in the state of Arizona that's better than me. There isn't a coach in the state of Arizona that can hold my underwear when it comes to coaching. That's just a fact. And for some of you that have played for me that are watching these, you know I'm telling the truth. But circumstances are what they are. I'm not going to question God's plan. I'm just going to go with it. So I'm doing these shows, able to look at these things from a very high level of coaching intellect. I never approach a game, and I never watch a game as a fan. I never do. I watch a game as a coach. What are they doing offensively? How can you break it down? What are they doing defensively? How can they break it down? For example, week 1, well, let's just go week 2, okay? Well, I'd rather use week 1 because it's a scenario that I can better articulate, and we talked about this game at nauseum a little bit. I should say, not really at nauseum, but I talked about this game. The Redskins-Pittsburgh Steelers game, okay? What I had said at halftime was it's a really simple fix, and Pittsburgh's pretty vulnerable. You take your best corner, because not everyone has a Josh Norman, okay? You put Norman on Brown wherever he goes. He goes to the toilet, you go with him, and you hand him the toilet paper when he's done. You go where he goes. But you do cover 2 zone blitz on the opposite side. Because what he was doing is whatever side Norman was on, he was just staring down the opposite side. So you zone blitz that side with the rollover up top with your safety. Not on Antonio Brown, but on the opposite side. And you attack the flats. Really simple defense. That's why I like cover 2, because you attack the flats and you have deep coverage. And you're blitzing, so you're forcing those medium throws before they open up. Not complicated for me. Now, some people may be like, oh yeah, that makes total sense, and you guys are on par. That's fine, but that's where I come from. So when I watch this Ram game and I see that we're throwing the ball deep and they're still not respecting the deep ball, then doggone it, you keep throwing the ball deep. I'm tired of hearing how fast Tavon Austin is, and then he's unable to get behind any defenders. I'm tired of it. So the game was frustrating in the sense that once again the offense did nothing. But I expected that. But I continue to be frustrated because our head coach continues to think this is good football. Our head coach is now making jokes about how bad our offense is in scoring points. Why aren't you fixing it? Well, we must have left our touchdowns in the luggage in St. Louis. Are you stupid? This isn't a laughing matter. People are spending their hard-earned dollars in there. You got players whose careers are dependent upon your success. Just because you don't take your job seriously doesn't mean the rest of them don't. There are so many things about Jeff Fisher I'm liking less and less. This is a serious moment for everyone in LA. We have gone 22 years without a team. And the last thing we wanted when you came in was to be a laughing stock on one side of the ball when you had all of that time to prepare to fix it. And instead of fixing it, you're making jokes. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm not taking it way too seriously. I'm not saying I need to relax. I don't want to hear any of that. You supposedly have professional football players. Hartstein and Keenum are 2 examples of non-professional football players starting in the National Football League. might as well have a blade of grass run blocking for Todd Gurley than Hardenstein. Certainly not as good as Okung, and I'm going to keep saying that name every single week because he signed for $21 million. $21 million less than you paid, so you could have paid him you could have paid him twice for the amount you re-signed Tavon Austin for. So, I'm frustrated because we have Tampa on the road next, and as bad as that defense looked against Arizona, they're home, they're going to be motivated just like we were after the San Francisco game. Their quarterback is better than Blaine Gabbert. And the last time we went on the road against a competent quarterback, we got obliterated 28-0. The offense has to get going. You want to make these jokes at the end of the year and go, yeah, in the beginning of the year, man, we must have left our TDs in St. Louis in the luggage. Fine. Ha ha, funny. We're all over it now. But you don't make those jokes when you're losing. And I'm not trying to be overly critical here. It's just frustrating when we're taking it more seriously than the people being paid millions of dollars who are overseeing the gosh darn project. And I hope Kroenke wasn't laughing either. I have a feeling he wasn't. Now, two things about the game, and I'll end the segment. The first thing about the game that I was incredibly pleased with was Legatron showed up, and he was money. Guys, the pressure of this game, and I know the players will admit this, I don't think these players have ever experienced that kind of pressure. The first game back in LA in 22 years, after a 28-0 loss, with an anemic with a terrible quarterback, an anemic offensive line, and no signs anywhere of scoring against one of the best defenses in football. Yet, they showed up, they stepped up, and they played it. Make no mistake, every kick Greg Zuerlein made last week was a big kick. It was a clutch kick. It was a pressure kick. And he got all three of them in. So I was really pleased with his performance. The second thing that I want to note about this game is how nasty the defense played, but within themselves. Okay? That was really important. Because there were times they had those hits. They were borderline, but because they controlled themselves, I feel like they didn't get the calls they normally would have gotten. That being said, I'm going to end this segment on two more things, okay? I want to make those comments about the game. One, if you ever needed more evidence that this man cannot be the head coach of this football team moving forward, take a look at the penalties. You're going to be alarmed. In 2 games, the amount of yardage they've been penalized, I think it's probably more than the Rams were penalized for the entire 1989 season. Like, it's that bad. There is no discipline on this football team, and that is 100% directly goes on the head coach. So while he's cracking jokes, his team is making major mental boneheaded mistakes in the penalty department, and that's coaching. I know. I coached. That's coaching. That's the last time I'm going to make that reference about me being a coach. You know it as a fan, it's coaching. But I'm telling you, it's unequivocally on you when you're a coach because these are things you work on during the week to make sure they don't happen on game day. Last thing that I want to mention as far as this game goes is that this game could be a springboard to great things in the future. For a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde football team that we are, if they can use this moment to shoot them over the top, you've got Tampa that's a winnable opponent. You've beaten Arizona and Arizona before with worse teams. You've got a very good football team at that point because you'd be 3-1, okay? Then you come home and play Buffalo, a team you should beat. So they have a chance to go 4-1 down the stretch here, and we'll talk about that later, but not trying to get too far ahead of myself. This is an opportunity they can use in their favor. but they're going to have to use it to springboard themselves forward. I really hope they don't take a step back like they usually do and lay an egg against Tampa Bay. That's it for segment 1. I'll be back. All right, segment 2. I'm going to talk about a few games here. The Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game was a good game. Pittsburgh, although they look like they have some vulnerable pieces, they continue to play really, really well, guys. And I tip my hat to Pittsburgh. I thought they'd do well this year. I don't like the Steelers, but they're doing well. That was a big rivalry game in the rain, down and dirty. Some questionable calls came out of that game. Tends to always be the case with the Pittsburgh Steelers, really since the late 1970s. They got the benefit of every call, and that seems to continue to be the case. But in the end, you got to deliver when those opportunities arrive. The Rams didn't. They got lucky that they fumbled at the end of the game because then they were able to utilize the clock and just run it out. But Seattle made a lot of mistakes that the Rams didn't capitalize on. Pittsburgh does, and that's the mark of a good football team, a championship football team, I should say. Detroit, Tennessee, I was surprised Detroit lost, but I wasn't at the same time. Guys, I'm high on the Titans. I don't think they're going to be I know they're not going to be 4-12 this year. I don't necessarily know if they're going to compete for a division, but they're going to be such an improved football team moving forward. And if DeMarco Murray can ever get going and consistently, this is going to be a really difficult team to stop. Baltimore at Cleveland, I don't know what to say about the Cleveland Browns at this point. They lose their second quarterback. The only thing I could say from a Rams fan perspective is, remember when Trent Green went down and we had no backup to speak of at all? We had a guy who was cut by the Packers and went into the World League and no one heard of him, and he turned into a great quarterback that he was. Tom Brady came in for Drew Bledsoe, and nobody really knew who Tom Brady was. I don't like judging a player before they've played. Cody Kessler's a rookie. There's going to be mistakes, but guys, he could perform like Dak Prescott, or he could perform like Ryan Leaf. We just don't know. So I was disappointed with the loss against Baltimore because they had such a big lead, but I think it shows you the resiliency of the Baltimore Ravens and the ineptness, unfortunately, of the Cleveland Browns. Dallas at Washington, the Redskins are done. Stick a fork in them. You got the Giants that are playing great. You got the Cowboys that are playing better. You got the Eagles that are playing out of their mind with a quarterback that you guys all know I was high on coming into the draft. They could finish last. Like, they were my number one pick. Regardless of how they end the season, they're not winning the division. And they're not good enough, I think, to make a wild card because I think there are other teams out there that are playing better right now. Washington needs to fight on for respectability, but once again, Jay Gruden refuses to let this guy follow him around in Norman. He could have followed Dez Bryant around and limited him from 10 catches for 107 yards to less than that. And you saw what Dallas did when they didn't get the ball to Dez Bryant the week before, especially with them fumbling the way they were. Obviously, it's not just that. You can't throw a pick when you're about to go up by 10 or at least 6. The importance of a field goal in that 6-point lead, just ask the Rams against a good football team. That's important. And they really made a boneheaded mistake. My question for Washington in that situation is, you don't run the ball once inside the 10-yard line? Like, not even a draw or a screen, a safe play. I mean, these NFL offenses today are so gosh darn predictable, and they're so bad. They're so bad. It's just like, it's hard to stomach sometimes. It's not a hard call to make. Run a draw, run a screen if you're going to go shotgun. Go under center and get your best running play in there against the team. Maybe go 3 wide with against the nickel and run your best running play. But good God, attempt to run the ball here, people. It's ridiculous. The Saints-Giants game was a great, fun game to watch. New York played well. New Orleans played well. It wasn't the shootout we all expected, but it was a fun game. Carolina-San Francisco went about the way we all expected. The 49ers did score more points than I expected. But then again, I told you Carolina wasn't a good football team, and here they are losing to Denver, who I don't think is a good football team, even though they won, and their defense does look great. They didn't look good against San Francisco either, meaning Carolina. So, and the 49ers offense continues to score against good quality defenses, so maybe the offense is legit, but that's a bad football team all the way around. The Rams-Seahawks we already talked about. Kansas City-Houston, Guys, I'm sorry, but I told you so. Brock Osweiler's legit. And he looked phenomenal in this game, too, against a football team that annihilated them before in Kansas City. So, kudos to Brock Osweiler and the Houston Texans. Arizona looked like the team everyone thought they were going to be. The team that didn't show up against New England showed up, and then some against Tampa Bay. So, reason to hope there, but there's still a lot of football left to play. And we need to keep our eye on Arizona because they can't lay too many more eggs like they did against New England. But that team that showed up against Tampa was the one we all thought would show up this year. Jacksonville at San Diego. Are we a believer yet that Jacksonville's not that good? Because I don't think the Chargers are that good, yet San Diego lit them up like Christmas in the city. So I don't know what the deal is with Jacksonville, but that wasn't a pretty game. Now, Oakland and Atlanta, and after this I'm going to interject with a little mini segment. Atlanta looked great. I thought the Falcons would be an improved football team this year. They were. I don't think that was a measure of how bad the Raiders are, more than it's a measure of how good Atlanta's going to be this year. Big win for the Falcons, unexpected win for the Falcons, but a big win for them nonetheless. I like what Oakland did at the end of the game. I wish they had shown more of that early on, but tough game to lose. So, about this. So, MM4 Forever asked me, what's my take on the Chargers and Raiders move to LA? Which team do you think will be in LA with the Rams next season or in a few years? So let me first address this. I did address this quite a bit during the offseason when all of this was going on. I don't think the Raiders or the Chargers are going to end up in LA. I think the Rams are it. I don't know what the future was with the Raiders. I was pretty confident they would get a deal done in Oakland with the money that they got after the whole thing went down. But that doesn't appear to have happened. The Chargers I knew would keep their football team. The city had a vote in June on whether or not to fund a bill to have a stadium built. That passed big time. So it goes to vote in November. I fully expect San Diego to approve it with the money that they got as far as the help from the NFL, which I think they got some money in that deal too. So that'll help fund the stadium, and the Chargers are going to stay where they belong in San Diego. All this talk about the Raiders going to Vegas looks like it could be a very real thing. They've actually approved the stadium design. It's going to go to vote. That process looks like it's moving. And it being in LA, you guys all know that process really, really well. I'm in Arizona, so I don't know how it looked in the home state. But it sounds like it's very similar to what happened in LA is happening in Vegas. So I would hate to see the Raiders leave Oakland, but I think it's inevitable. So the other part was, which team I think will be with the Rams in the next few years, or neither team. And the answer to that is neither. I don't think the Chargers or the Raiders are ever going to be in L.A. The Raiders were certainly never going to be in L.A. Even if they got a second chance, I think the league was really going to push them to approve whatever stadium deal came through, or immediately support them for whatever move they want to make out of Oakland, like to Vegas. But they weren't coming to L.A., and the Chargers knew they couldn't come to L.A. because there was no fan support. They'd lose a quarter of their Charger fan base would go to the Rams, and the other I would say the other 3 quarters, certainly 2 of the 3 quarters, so that makes 3 quarters of their fan base totally gone, would just not support them. So maybe a quarter of their fan base would follow them to San Diego, but that would be it. And then LA's already locked into their team. LA made it very clear they wanted the Rams and no one else, so the Chargers would have just been an annoying secondary, an annoying brother that's like whatever you want to call it, like an annoying in-law that was staying with you that you couldn't get rid of. That's all the Chargers would be, and they knew it. So I expect the stadium deal to pass. So that's my take on the Raider-Charger situation in LA. I want to get that in for MM4 Forever because I felt, I told you guys when you ask questions, I'm going to do the best I can to answer it on here, if not replying to you directly. If you ever want me to reply on a show, just ask me. In his case, he said he wanted to hear what I had to say. So there you go. Indianapolis at Denver. I already told you guys Denver impressed me defensively. Not to the point where I'm sitting here saying they're a better defense than they were a year ago. They haven't played nearly enough games for that. And I'm sorry, I still don't think you can lose Trevathan, your defensive lineman, and one of your better nickel corners and be the same defense. I just don't buy it, especially with a rookie quarterback in Trevor Siemian. Green Bay looks terrible. How you beat or lose to a Sam Bradford quarterbacked football team, at that point you should do three things. You should fire your D coordinator. You should probably trade away some of your parts to your football team because you're not worth spit anyway. And you should probably let your head coach know he's on the hot seat. If you lose to a Sam Bradford-led football team, those are the three things you need to do. I don't want to hear Bradford look great. Quarterback in a new system, first game. There's a lot of advantages for that guy and not for the defense. They hit him. He stayed healthy, sort of. He did break up his hand a little bit. But the important thing to take away from that game is you won the battle, but you're going to lose the war. You already lost your quarterback. You already lost your lineman now in this game, your center Khalil for the season. And now you lost Adrian Peterson for the season. So the quarterback hero line is gone. Your best football player is gone. And your quarterback is gone. Good luck. I don't care how good your defense is. You're not going to have a snowball's chance in Hades of winning a lot of football games this year. I fully expect the Vikings to be 4-12, 5-11 this year. That's right, 4-12 or 5-11. 3 more wins is all I'm giving you the rest of the way. And your first loss is about to be ugly at Carolina, who I don't think is a good football team either, just so you know. Philadelphia, Chicago. Wentz looked great. I don't want to hear this crap. Oh, it's the Bears, it's the Browns. Look great. Keenum played the gosh darn 49ers. Played the gosh darn 49ers. Okay? And he looked worse than a backup Pop Warner quarterback. So, Wentz did it. Keenum didn't against a bad football team. So, kudos to him. Wentz looks real. It'll be fun to watch the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers next week. So, that's it for segment 2. I'll be back for segment 3 and wrapping up the show. All right. I'm going to wrap up the show with a few things here. I'm going to end with the Ram game, even though it's not the Monday night game, so I'm going to bypass that when I get to it. I'm going to do something different this week. I'm going to go through each game and kind of give you my rough predictions, and you guys can laugh at me when you see my 5-11 records that have been popping up. Although last week I did go 9-7. Again, I don't claim to be an expert. These are just opinions. And sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong. So, Houston at New England week, the Thursday night game. I'm not watching the game. I don't know what is going on. I don't even have it on my phone. All I know is Jacoby, what's his name? Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback. Houston in a rout. And let me explain. When you're dealing with a Bill Belichick football team, if you can beat them by 10 points or more, that's a rout. I don't consider 10 points a rout unless it's against the Patriots because that football team is good. So I expect the Texans to win this game. And I told you guys when we started that the Texans were going to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs and lose to New England in the AFC Championship game because you don't beat Bill Belichick twice. Houston's going to beat Bill Belichick tonight and lock up as the season progresses that home field advantage because of this game. They will not take advantage of that in the championship game against New England, but Houston wins tonight. Arizona at Buffalo, there's no question who I'm going here. Arizona looked great against Tampa Bay, and Buffalo doesn't have a quarterback near the ability of a Jameis Winston. Although they have a much better running back than an injured Doug Martin, I think that the Cardinals win this game rather handily in Buffalo. Minnesota at Carolina, no chance Minnesota wins this game. Sam Bradford, no center, no running back to be seen. They have Stephon Diggs. Carolina can play defense. It's over. It's over. Mark it down. It's over. And Bradford may get injured in this game. Big win for Carolina. 14, 21 points. I'm not going to go points on all these games. What I'm telling you is if you're a Panther fan, you will be comfortable at one point during this game proceeding to the end. Denver at Cincinnati, I think this is the Broncos' first loss. I think Cincinnati's going to come back angry. I think they're going to come back motivated. I think Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, is going to show, hey, we almost beat Pittsburgh, but almost don't matter. We're ticked because this is now twice in a row we've lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and nothing else to them is going to matter. Denver's got a great D, there's no question. And I know what I said in the beginning of the offseason, or in the offseason, and the beginning of the season, but I got to give credit where credit's due. That defense has looked well and good. But Cincinnati is not Indianapolis, and they are not nearly as porous as the Carolina Panthers offensive line. So I'm expecting Cincinnati to win this game. Detroit at Green Bay. Look, Detroit, I don't know what to make of them. They look great against Indy. They look terrible against Houston, against Tennessee. I almost said Houston. Sorry, Oiler fans. I don't know. Green Bay should and probably will win this game being in Lambeau. Baltimore at Jacksonville. I was high on Jacksonville, sort of. I know they were everyone's sexy pick, and I was kind of okay with them. I thought they'd be a third-place team. They've done nothing to prove that wrong. Baltimore benefits from the most cake schedule you could ever hope to start a season with. Basically, the NFL said, we want you to go 3-0, so go ahead and go 3-0. They're going to go into Jacksonville and wipe the floor with the Jaguars. Cleveland at Miami. Miami showed some real heart at the end of that game against New England coming back. They outscored the Patriots 24-10 once Garoppolo went down with the injury. So I fully expect Miami to win this game. I don't know how big. I don't know if it's going to be a rout. But Miami should indeed handle Cleveland, unfortunately. But fortunately for you Dolphin fans. Redskins at Giants, I don't see it. Not in New York. Not with this coaching staff in Washington. Not with those receivers in New York. And not with an improved defense. The Giants have made a believer out of me in just 2 weeks. And I was their harshest critic. I think the Redskins are going to get handled here by the New York Football Giants. And I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. I'm not going to give a score. All I know is New York is going to be 3-0 at the end of this game, and the Redskins are really going to have to consider what their options are at this point at 0-3. And I'm not talking about with Kirk Cousins either. I'm talking about with their coaching staff and what direction their organization is going to go, because I know the Redskins well, and I know this owner, he ain't going to put up with this. It's 0-3. You might as well just basically know you're on hiatus as soon as we hit the bye week. It looks bad for the Redskins. Oakland at Tennessee. Again, I'm high on the Titans, but the Raiders are legit. I think their defense finally gets an opponent they can control. I'd love to see DeMarco Murray go off because he's on my fantasy team, but I don't see it. I think the Raiders are going to shut this thing down and run away with this game. I'm going to skip the Ram-Buccaneer game for now. Seattle at home against San Francisco. I think the Seahawks are going to come back a little motivated after that performance in LA. And I think the 49ers might be coming in a little full of themselves based on how well they played offensively against Carolina. Everyone's saying right now about this game, the Niners are scoring, the Seahawks aren't. Carolina's a great defense. Seattle's a great defense. Carolina can't score, so therefore, Seattle can't score, therefore San Francisco should win. Guys, don't kid yourself. This could be a 21-3, 21-7, 28-0 game. It's not going to be pretty for Chip Kelly and the San Francisco 49ers when Seattle gets done with them. Not because Seattle's that much better offensively than, I'm not saying that, but their defense is capable of going 3-and-out, 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 and that just kills your defense. And eventually they will wear down and break down. So I see a Seattle victory here. Pittsburgh at Philly. I'm picking Pittsburgh. I like Wentz so far. I know it's in Philly, and I know you Eagle fans are excited, but now the big boys come to play. And I know what I said about the Bears and the Browns, but the one thing I do agree with the pundits is the Steelers are not the Browns or the Bears. They're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You've been playing the JV and doing well. Now you get the varsity. So buckle up and let's see what you got. I expect a great game. I think Philly will be in it, and I think in defeat, Seattle will walk out of this game more confident than they have in their last two victories. So look out for that. San Diego at Indianapolis. I got no reason to pick the Colts right now. They cannot stop anybody. And San Diego has not been stopped yet by anybody. Maybe in the second half against Kansas City. The Chargers look offensively just wow, like blow you away. So I think San Diego is going to win that game in a shootout. New York Jets at the Kansas City Chiefs. This is obvious for me. The Chiefs are going to roll. I know the Jets are 1-1. I know the Jet fans are, Forte and everything. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not the Buffalo Bills. You could barely handle Buffalo. You didn't handle Cincinnati, although the Bengals are a great football team, or a good football team. You're about to play another really good football team, and you're on the road for the first time? Yeah, good luck. Chicago at Dallas. The Cowboys in a rout. Jay Cutler is Jay Cutler, and the Bears don't have Matt Forte anymore, and their defense is just as sorry as it's ever been. Monday night, I will not be watching. I will be doing my civic duty on Monday night. For those of you that know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you that don't, you'll figure it out. You're smart folks. I will be DVRing this game, though, to watch it later so I can comment on the show. And, of course, that's Atlanta at New Orleans, which I foresee New Orleans winning. I foresee New Orleans winning that game, being the home team. It's Drew Brees in the Dome. He's such a good quarterback in the Dome, and he's such a different quarterback in that stadium. I don't see New Orleans losing that game. I want to wrap up the show talking about the Ram-Buccaneer game. Guys, I told you there was a pathway to victory last week, and the Rams did it. It was through their defense. I figured they needed to score a defense touchdown or a special teams touchdown because they knew their offense couldn't. I knew their offense was capable of producing field goals, but if they're going to get a touchdown, they need to get it from the defense. That being said, against Tampa Bay, I think the offensive line has been humiliated a little bit, and they are getting a much easier defensive front to see and play against than they have so far this year. And yes, I have always thought the 49ers front four was better than Tampa Bay's. They have an opportunity to gash them here in the running game. The pathway to victory for the Rams here, and it's a narrow one. The defense has to continue to play well against a motivated, angry, pumped up, freaking livid Tampa Bay Buccaneer football team. That's not going to be easy because Winston, he is not a better quarterback than Russell Wilson, but he is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson is right now because Wilson was hobbled and he will not be. So the mobility factor is going to be there. The deep threats are going to be there. The receivers are way better than Seattle's. I've said, and I've felt that way for a long time. So the Rams defense is really going to have to play a Herculean type game. Offensively, they have got to find a running game. And they've got to get the ball vertical like they did this week. And Zerline's got to connect because their kicker won't. So I foresee the Rams winning this game. You wanted me to give you a score, I'll give you a score. I think it's going to be like a 20-7, 20-10, 20-13 type of game. Who knows? It could even be 16-14. Who knows? They're going to need field goals. They're going to need touchdowns. But again, they can blow this team out if they can add some special teams and defensive touchdowns to the mix. I do think the offense is capable of producing 1 tutty on the ground and 3 field goals. The question then comes, can the Rams defense play Herculean in its effort and stop the Buccaneers offense and limit them to just 2 scores? Whether it's 2 touchdowns or 2 field goals or a touchdown and a field goal, whatever that method is of 2 scores, can they hold them to just 2 scores? Excuse me. Can they hold them to just 2 scores? If they do, the Rams will be 2-1. They'll fly back to LA, and they'll get ready for Arizona, a football team that, quite frankly, I don't know how we beat right now. Maybe my attitude changes with a good defensive showing and a strong offensive showing. Doubtful. Against Tampa Bay. We win 16-10, 16-14. Again, it's going to take a very narrow window to beat Arizona, and that window is Todd Gurley. And I think we all know that. So it's going to be rough, but it is plausible. There is a pathway to victory here, and we've got, this is one of those games we should win. Keenum beat this football team in the Dome last year in St. Louis. So now he's got to go to the big sombrero in Tampa and beat the Buccaneers again. He certainly has the ability to do it, and they certainly have the knowledge of knowing they can do it because they've done it before, but it's going to take some work. So that's my pathway to victory. My prediction is Rams 16, Buccaneers 14 or less, and I think the Rams escape with a victory. We can worry about Arizona next week, but 2-1 is a possibility. But it's all going to come down to that defense, Gurley, and Keenum showing up competent enough like he did last week on the deep ball to help Gurley in the running game out. Guys, that's it for my show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like the way I did this segment. If you want me to address something on air, ask the question down in the comments section. Good luck to your football teams if you're not a Ram fan, and go Rams! That's it for LA Rams Central, the 1-1 Los Angeles Rams Out, and have a great weekend.